Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Drumfills Cafe. If you didn't know, Drumfills Cafe have 4 years now. We have more than 320 or 30, 330, I think, interviews done in French, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Um, I'm not alone in that project. We are like a bunch of people, like around 10 person like collaborators. So I really invite you to go to www.drumfillscafe.com if you want to know what we do. We have interviews. We're like a hybrid magazine. So we have like also contests, different content about different kind of music. We also are not just focused on drums, but we have music like artists linked to different music instrument, and we have a school. We're working on that right now, so if you have time, go check it out, drumfillscafe.com. So let's go with our artist today. I'm very happy to have him here. I'm very thrilled to have him here. I would just read a few things for as an introduction. Who is so he played with a lot of people, so Jeff Beck, Michael Schrecker, Nick Kershaw, Mike Oldfield, Irumi, Judas Priest, Mike Rutherford, Tears for Fears, Joe Satriani, and like The Who, and many, many more. He has his own project. He's a clinician. So let's welcome here right now. Hello, Simon Philip. How are you doing?
Hello there. I'm doing fine, thank you. Yes, I'm in just outside of Los Angeles, and it's kind of a wintry day today. Believe it or not, it's a bit grey, a bit overcast. We actually do get winter here. Believe it or not, it's just a little different, not quite as cold.
Yeah, I'm used to my first winter. I feel in Los Angeles. I was down south. I was in Irvine, and we
Yep.
got they got snow there, like a little snow for a day, like back in 2006, I think, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
well,
that's right.
welcome to be here. Welcome to be
Thank
here
you.
today. Finally, a great spot with your computer when you move it with the lights and
Uh,
everything. It's look good. Your studio, yeah.
this is
So
my
I
this is my office. This is where I do most of my work actually nowadays.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. You're a producer,
Mhm.
not just a drummer. You're producing like different
Mhm.
things. So I wanted to talk about your early age first. I know your father was in the music, but I have a question. Why did you choose drums? You could pick keyboard, like piano, like guitar, bass, but why drums? Like just a curious
Uh,
question.
I think they chose me.
It shows you.
Yeah. So my dad used to rehearse his band. He had a Dixieland dance band back in the, well, late 40s, 50s, and 60s, all the way through the early 70s. Um, he would rehearse the band at the house that I grew up in. I was about 3 years old. Um, and I'd seen the band rehearse a few times, and the only thing that attracted my attention were all these beautifully glossy brass instruments, like a baritone or a tenor or an
Yeah,
alto, trumpet, trombone. But I couldn't see the drum because they were in a different room, so it never really made sense. But this one time, my father must have done a deal with my mom because the
okay.
room he was rehearsing in was just too small, and the piano was in the living room. So my mom obviously agreed to allow him to have the whole band in our living room.
Oh,
Um, and he turned the band round. So when I walked in the door, the first thing I saw was a beautiful Ludwig super classic drum kit played
for
by
sure.
a new drummer. It was his first rehearsal with the band, a young guy. His name was Dave Rogers, and he was a beautiful drummer playing that style. Um, and that was it. I saw I mean, I'm only as high, I mean, not as high as the hi hat, I'm seeing the
Yeah,
hi
yeah,
hat go up and down, the pedal, this beautiful chrome Ludwig's Superphonic
yeah.
400 snare drum, which had a sound that I couldn't believe. That was it from
That
that
was it.
moment.
And did you get lessons with that guy, or did you, or you just
No. Well, yes and no. I got lessons from everybody, though they don't know it. I must owe
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
for
of
sure.
drummers a lot of money.
No, for sure.
Because I got a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
free lessons. I mean, I bought the record, but I really learned to play um, by listening to records and by playing along with records. I always
yeah,
like
yeah,
to say that I learned to play music, not that I
Hmm.
learned to play drums, because the way that my father, his concept was more about playing the tune.
Hmm.
So now fast forward, to when I started playing with the band when I was 12 years old. Um, he didn't care kind of how I did anything. He wasn't a
Hmm.
drummer. He was a clarinet player, baritone player, bit of a piano player. He wanted to just he wanted the every instrument to be part of the band, and he wanted the drummer to be playing the music. So that's kind of how I learned, really. I did go to a drum teacher to learn to read music when I was 8 years old. And he was a very famous teacher in London, actually. He taught loads of people. Phil Collins went to him, um, Neil Wilkinson, a lot of British drummers went to him. Um, but I never really. I went there for reading lessons. He didn't
Hmm.
never taught me how to hold my sticks. He never taught me a paradiddle. He gave me a book with all the rudiments in, and
Yes.
I'm just too lazy to read
Yeah.
books. I just wasn't. I wasn't interested. I wanted to put a record on and play music. That's what I wanted to do. That's how it started, really.
You kind of steal a bit of one of my question because you said something very important. It's like I'm not just a drummer; I'm a musician. I'm like, first of all, I'm a musician. I like to all the orchestra and all manage all those sounds, playing with everybody, make a band, not like just like a drummer solo in a band.
Yeah.
And my question was like, how important is for you, because you're a producer, to play for the song no matter what, because I think it's important. A lot of drummer, not a lot of, drummer, a lot of musicians, they don't have that vision. But when you are in a project, it's important to take a little back and look at what's going on and play for the song, not to play that chop number 25, and be a good musician to give that
Yeah.
chance. Look at the Beatles, for example. All of those guys played for the song. So how important is for you when you produce and like an album? You have any tricks or any things you likes to do at first when you check out the project and you want to work with those musicians, for example?
Um, yeah. I mean, to me, sound, the sonic quality is extremely important.
Hmm.
I think I probably play more for the sound than the part. Um, let's say there's kind of different ways of looking at this. As a player, when I'm asked to
Hmm.
play on a record, for example, I will if I go to a studio and we mic the kit up, we get a drum sound. I don't really think too much about it. I don't worry too much about it. But as long as the engineer's happy, or if I'm engineering, as long as the engineer is happy, I'm happy.
Yeah,
It's a starting point.
totally.
I just want to know that everything is coming through properly and it sounds like it should. This sounds like a kick drum. There's nothing wrong with it. This sounds like a snare drum. The overhead, everything's good. That's great. But that has nothing to do with how that kit's going to sound in the music that I'm about to play. And so
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah.
do is I have my snare drum that I start with. It's one particular drum that I always use to start, and then I'll run the track, or if I'm in a studio, they'll run the track and I'll play. I might know even in the headphones that this is the wrong snare drum sound for this track.
Hmm. Yeah,
So, but I'll just do the pass anyway. If it's really bad, I'll just stop and go, okay, let's swap that out. But it's also an opportunity to learn the track a little bit and just, get
totally.
comfortable with levels and stuff like that. But I'll know, no, that's not right. I'll go and have a listen. And I'll go, yeah, it really is not right. So
Yeah,
I'll
so that
go out.
doesn't work.
Now I know what the song's about. I'm going to say, let's try this one, and that
Yeah.
drum might be it might be a Ludwig 400. It might be a Ludwig 402. It might be a Slingerland. It might be, and I have a whole bunch of different Tama drums too. Wood shell, metal shell, uh, deep, shallow. That's the first thing to me to get right for the track.
Hmm.
But my job is as a drummer and to supply the drum track to that tune. And I do a lot of work here where I'm the only person here, so I'm engineering myself. I'll spend a while just making sure the sounds really suit the music. And I might try a couple of different snare sounds. I might go, Okay, we know that works. Let's take that off. Let's try a higher tune one. Let's see how that sits with this. And then the problem comes is when you have two solutions that both work.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Then
all the
you're
time.
and then you're like, "Oh, which one?"
True. Always
And
take the
that
red. Take the red is good.
yeah,
Always take the red.
yeah. And that's the problem when you're on your own. If I had
Yeah.
someone to bounce off, it's like, "What do you prefer?" And they're listening to it from a totally different way. So, "I like that one. Great, we'll go with that one because I don't mind. I'm happy with both." And it just happened 2 days ago. I just finished up an album, and I was almost going to do a second pass of the track with a different snare drum, and I thought, let's just close up everything and call it a day. And then I came in the morning
Change.
and played the track, and I went, "No, that sounds great. Just some
Oh,
fresh
okay.
ears." It actually sounded fine. So that's the drumming side. Now, if I'm going for the whole picture, which is
Yeah.
as a producer or even just as an engineer, you know,
Yeah.
um, then it's slightly different. I have to have a vision of what I want this record to sound like,
Totally. Oh yeah, for sure.
you
Hmm.
know. And
Yeah.
there's two things. If I'm mixing a record, obviously, I will, take a listen to the tunes, so I'm get familiar with them a little bit. But then before I start the first mix, I have to have a vision. How do I want this record to sound
Yeah.
based
You make.
on
Hmm.
what I'm hearing? I'm putting some
Yeah.
faders up. It's a very rough mix. Okay, I see. And that's where that starts from. And I do. It's very visual, actually. I
Yeah.
even get an idea of panning positions, how I want to do things. And it's the same with the production. But with the production, obviously, you're looking after all the players who, well,
Oh yeah.
hopefully you're
Okay. Yeah.
all in the same
Depends on.
room.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That and our challenge today is that we're not all in the same room.
No, rarely actually.
Yeah. And then you sometimes get all these different parts in, and hang on, did I just hear a clash? And you go, oh, the bass player's he's playing an F natural, but should be right.
Yeah. Yep.
uh, there's that kind of stuff. So it's not the most ideal way to make a record. I miss when I do production. I try, if there's the budget and if everybody's in the same place, to try to have a live session
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's so much quicker and we can change things instantly and we can all chat about it. And that's my preference. But yeah, it's all about what do you want this record to sound like, and then what do you want this song to sound like.
Yeah, particularly when you do depends of the production too. If you do like a pop album, it's a different approach. When you go into jazz fusion, like a Latin stuff, better to be at least a big part of the rhythm section, and later the solo part. But like I'm with you on that. Like if you have the chance to be everybody, of
Yeah,
course it saves so much time. So well,
yeah.
actually talking about that, you have your project protocol for years, like in from 1988, I think, something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
You did like 5 album. Are you the? I know it's your project, but is it you guiding like all the lines on it, or when you because you had different musician on each album,
Yeah.
or they everybody bring their own flavor, or how that work when you work with protocol, for example?
Well, I write all the music
Okay, okay,
and I make demos, very complete demos, but it's all keyboards. I own keyboards. I don't like to say I play keyboards because I'm a really bad keyboard player, and
or
especially since I got hold of a sequencer back in 1985, I've become worse because now I don't have to play anything for longer than one bar.
exactly. There you go.
And all the hard stuff, I can slow it down and
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. So I can't play it,
copy paste.
but
Yep.
I hear it. I want to hear it. So I will send demos out, but obviously I'm picking the musicians for a very specific reason, for the way they sound.
Hmm.
Um, and then I send them the demos, and then we do a rehearsal, maybe a day, 2 days, or something. Um, and we just work it out. Really, they've got the music. I have a copyist who actually makes charts from my
Yep.
demos, so
Yep.
everybody knows what they've got to play. Um, Now it's a question of and it's interesting producing from the drummer's chair,
Hmm.
actually being
Oh,
one of
for
the
sure.
musicians that's playing, because I have to produce myself too,
Yeah, totally.
rather than just being a listener. And but I've been doing this a long time, where I leave the drum kit, I take the headphones off, put the sticks in the bag, and walk through to the control room,
Yeah.
and then turn the monitors up and press play. And now I've become a different person.
Oh, for sure. You don't see
I
yourself as yeah. It's a, you
exactly.
see yourself as a musician. Yeah,
Yeah.
external.
Then,
Yeah.
I might hear myself do something. I go, "What the hell did you do that for?" You know, that kind of stuff. It's quite
Yeah.
funny, actually. And I think when I'm mixing, that's when I really get quite vocal. I
Okay.
talk to the musicians. Actually, they're not in the room at all. They're only on drive.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
said,
yeah.
"You're sharp. Why, you're rushing, whatever."
What's
It's
that?
very common, actually. But um, yeah, so that's how protocol works. I produce it like I would produce any other album of that type, which is all playing together,
Yeah,
lots of solos. So you have to be very aware of soloists, and sometimes solos it can be done in one or two passes. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, and you
for
just
sure.
have to work with the person, just say, guide them through, and we maybe do this section, and until you got a really good solo.
Yeah, because I have I listen of your the five album, and they're very good. I mean, well done. I mean, more like the 3 4, protocol 3, protocol 4. And I really like the sound, like the overall sound of what you did with the band.
Yeah.
And it's something I really like. I like about your playing, but also your vision about your sound and the music. Because, for example, you can have your big drum, big Tama, double bass drum, 24 inches all the time. And if you want to play jazz, it's gonna be jazz. But let's say with Toto, you were playing like rock and all, it's gonna sounds rock. And it's a good example. It's not just because of the kit will be a rock kit. You cannot do that jazz touch. But a lot of people have that image of a
Yeah.
drummer with not so much drum will be so soft, a big drum will be so hard, and you really adapt well. And I would say a fun fact: I went like we shake hand long time ago in Toronto. You did the jazz festival with Hiromi and Anthony
Oh,
Jackson.
yeah.
And I was with my dad. I was on tour too. I was downtown with Cavalia with the horses back then, but I have one day off, and I could see you during the festival. And I was not expecting you will have your big kit on stage, but was your the same kit,
Yeah.
and it was sounding amazing. You did a very good job, and because I've seen her a couple of times before with Martin Valiora and Dave DiCenzio at the Yoshi in San Francisco, and I wanted to say like. Even the soft part of Iromi, you were super low, but when it's built up, you really have a good organic um, uh, you're very organic. If it's loud, you're gonna go loud. If it
Yeah.
doesn't need to, you will play the same intensity but very soft. And I
Yeah.
think that's important. But how important for you is to really you're talking about like for when you're producing, but when you play live with a band like that, how important is for you to build that transition, like that intention at different level with the band? How you build that depending of the project. For example, Iromi, for example, like is more jazz funk, like
Well, again, it just depends on the music. I mean, it's the music that really dictates how you're going to play. I mean, the the trio project was probably one of my favorite projects of my whole career.
oh yeah,
It was
okay.
also one of my biggest learning curves of my whole career. Um, Reason being is I've always played with a guitar player.
Okay.
There's only a couple of times where there wasn't a guitar player in the band, and that was when I played with my dad. It was a jazz, not a big band, but like a medium-sized
See.
band.
Yeah.
When I did my Straight Ahead album with Jeff Babco, Vantage Point, and we were playing just pure straight ahead, or one project I did called PSP with Phillips and Pino Palladino, but it was
Yeah.
all electric keyboards. So there was, once you take away a synthesizer and a guitar, suddenly
Yeah.
it's really exposed. You have two
Yes.
percussion instruments, you've got a piano and a drum kit, and one bass, which is mainly monophonic.
Yeah, totally.
It's so I always felt I was too loud in the band. Um, because I've never heard a drum kit without a big guitar chord or a big keyboard sound. It's so weird. So I had to really get used to that. Also, get used to playing extremely quietly, and
Oh,
that
for
was a
sure.
wonderful learning curve for me. And that's also one of the reasons I introduced my third snare drum,
Oh, okay.
because to do the whole set based around my main snare drum, which is 14-inch, 6.5. It was just too heavy for a lot of the sections. So by
Okay.
using this 10-inch drum, it still had a nice crack to it. I could hit a rim shot, but it didn't drown out the music. It
I
just
got
sat on top with when Hiromi is playing piano, and so that was quite a big change to suddenly introduce that setup, which I've been using ever since. I think I changed in I think it was 2012. I added that the 3 snare drum setup. So, um I've always been into dynamics. I think it's
it.
really important. One of the things when I rehearse the band, uh, I always remind them, okay, this section, we need to really bring this down. Let's have a crescendo here. And I don't think there's enough of that in modern music. Obviously, in rock and roll, there isn't
Definitely.
the opportunity to do that. Although, but there is. You have to be very subtle about it. But even in a lot of kind of jazz fusion, I think it gets forgotten about sometimes. And I
Mhm.
remember Steve Smith, actually, he came to a protocol show in New York once, and that's one thing he commentated on. He or commented on. He said, "Wow, that's so cool that you guys really observe dynamics and play, certain sections really quietly, and it's lovely that." So
It's beautiful.
I think it's just it's what the music is telling you, isn't it? Really,
For sure. Yeah, but it's
yeah,
it's it's not a it's not for everybody. That the point is like it's very hard. It's something you need to work on. Steve Smith, long time ago in a master class, he says like always try to play the softest as possible, the medium as possible, the double F as possible, but at different speed in whatever situation as you can.
yes,
So and it's hard. And I remember a long time ago, I was a kid, and there was a death metal band playing in a show in Montreal,
yeah,
and a friend of mine was technician, and I could be in front of him talking, but he was able to do his grindcore, double pedal, snare super fast, but
right.
so soft. He was able to really manage all the level, and it's hard that in that kind of
Oh yeah,
hard heavy music, you need that
oh
focus.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and you were talking about your snare, because I put a note here. Is the Tama 50th anniversary this year, and fifth anniversary, and you have like a lot of you have like you're gonna play for Tama in a few places, right? You have like
Yes.
a few
Yeah.
events for Tama. You've been with Tama since what, 30 years, 30 some how many?
No, 40
No,
something.
40. Oh,
1979.
oh, wow. So congratulations. It's a
Thank you.
long stretch with Tama. So, but you're well deserved. Tama is a great company. They make good product, and
Make great
and
drums,
your
yeah.
kits are very consistent, the quality and all. And how is it for you to be invited to play for a few events for them for celebrating that
Oh,
50th
well, I
anniversary?
mean, they've got a lot of endorsers to pick from. And a lot of great drummers playing Tama. Yeah, I don't know why they did, but but they did. Um,
So,
I'm playing. We've got one event at the House of Blues in Anaheim right during the NAMM show, but there
yeah.
are quite a few other drummers playing.
Okay.
Um, I'm playing there with my band, and Spud is playing with his band. So we have at the end of the show, after we got some individual drummers, then we have two bands playing, which is nice.
That's great.
And then I'm going to do a set with Protocol in for Tama in Amsterdam,
Okay.
and also in Guttenstetten, which is where Meinl is based
Yeah.
in Germany.
Okay.
So yeah, we're going to be doing three shows for the 50th anniversary. It's
That's
great.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. And how you become like why back then you choose Tama or Tama choose you like because normally I always say you endorse the company you want more before they're gonna endorse you because you really need to like them
Yes.
and like and because at that time was the Imperial Store Superstar like there's have a few kit like that quite amazing and they're
Um,
super famous right now too.
yeah, I met the people from Tama in Japan. I went on my first tour of Japan in 1978. I was
Okay,
playing with Jeff Beck and Stanley Clark,
okay,
and the drum kit that I used in those days was a Ludwig Octoplus kit,
okay.
which is
What? Yeah, yeah.
8 concert toms, 2 bass drums, floor tom, and a snare drum.
Huge
Uh,
kit, yeah.
it was, it was a large kit, yeah, all single head. Um,
Oh yeah.
so and I loved Ludwig. I was a total Ludwig fan, and I wasn't really that interested in using some of the new Japanese drums like Yamaha and Tama and Pearl. But we got to Nagoya, and it was a day off, and I remember it very well. It was raining, so we all went to the hotel bar, and there were all these people from Tama and Ibanez. So the Ibanez people went to Stanley Clark and started talking to him, and the Tama people went to me and started talking to me, and we chatted. They took us out to dinner, and then the next day they brought a whole bunch of drums down to the show to where we were playing.
To try, yeah.
Um, and I hadn't really seen like the latest versions of their drums. They had some Superstar, Tama Superstar. That's
Yep.
right. And I was looking at it, I was going, oh, actually, these are really nice, the way they're making these drums. And I already used Tama hardware, some Tama hardware. So they were the first people to make a boom stand, as far as I know.
Yes, it's true. With the weight.
Um, so yeah, and then actually the first it was a kind of chrome weight. It was a
Yep,
long
I
weight. It wasn't the
yep,
black thing yet, you know.
yep.
So I asked them. I said, "Can you make fiberglass drums?"
Oh.
Because the problem was in those days was being heard because Ludwig and Gretsch and Slinger, they weren't very loud drums. That was
That's true.
the problem. And guitarists and bass players were loud back then. They
Yep.
used, four by 12s for a guitar player and two, acoustic 360s for a bass player. I mean, it was crazy. And we didn't have monitor systems like we do now. We had monitors, but we didn't, I
With
don't know even if yeah, I
the
think I
weight.
fully mic'd, but still some people weren't using a mic on every drum. They were using one between two.
Yeah,
But I
splitting.
insist to have one mic for every drum. So I wanted to get a fiberglass drum kit, and they brought this Imperial Fiber Star, it's called.
Silver. Yeah,
And
silver, yeah.
yeah, so I think they wanted me to use the kit, and I said, no, I can't. It would take me a whole day to prep that kit and make it playable, you know.
Yeah.
So I did the gig with my kit. I finished the tour off, but I then they hadn't started making power toms yet, and the Ludwig catalog they just introduced deeper toms. So I remember on the plane on the way back, we were flying from Japan to Moscow, London. And I remember writing on a pad all the drum sizes that I wanted. And then when I got back to London, we didn't have faxes in those days. It was a telex.
Telex.
And I
Oof.
sent a telex to them, and they made that drum kit, and it arrived around March 1979. And the
Wow.
first record I played on with that kit was Mike Rutherford,
Whoa,
Small
okay.
Creeps Day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that was it. And
It's a
I was a Tama endorsee for the rest of the endorser, rather, for the rest of now,
yes,
40
it's
something
impressive.
years later.
Yeah, it's impressive. And what I like too, I mean, you like I know you have backline kit, like you have kit in different backlines all around the world. Like so, if you need something, you call them, they're gonna ship the kit for you. But it's very fun because you always like to use kind of the same kit with some add-on or thing you're changing around.
Yeah.
Um, I know it's but why? It's a personal question. Why you choose to go with 24, for example, and like Tom like four tom in front of you, quite like not so powerful, not the 10 10 necessarily all the time, but like kind of not like a short stack too. Like I mean, a good size. Why this choice? Just like by just to know why you pick a huge because it's a huge kit. You have a big kit.
Um, I went backwards and forwards from 22s to 24s from 1974.
Okay.
So up until from I used a 20-inch kick drum in 1969, 1970, 71, and I think 71 I got my Heyman kit. That was a 22, and then at the end of 74, I was in New York, and the management, the artist I was playing with, they got me a Ludwig Octopus butcher block from Sam
Yeah.
Ash, and it had 24-inch bass drums. And that was the only one they had. They didn't have 22s. And I thought,
That's
well, let
only
me
that.
try it. So I
Okay.
tried them, and I kind of dig these big bass drums. These are lovely. And then I went back to London, back to my 22s. And then I thought, no, I'm going to go 24. So I then I got some Heyman 24-inch
Yeah.
bass drums, because in those days, that's what everybody was using in the rock world. Everybody was using
Yeah.
either 24s or 26s. And then after the band I was in kind of broke up, I went back to doing sessions, and I had two Ludwig kits that I was using. They were both 22s, purely because we couldn't get 24-inch bass drums, Ludwig bass
Yeah.
drums in London at the time. You'd have to go to New York to get them, or get them specially ordered, and just didn't seem to work out. So now I was back to 22s, and I used 22s when I started using Tama, but they came out with a new drum kit called the Art Star,
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Hmm.
and it was a Cordia finished, and they only made 24-inch bass drums with it.
There you go.
And I went, oh, okay, all right,
Okay.
I'll use 24-inch bass drum. So now I'm back using 24s, and I think I just stuck to them from ever since. Isn't that funny? I just love the warm maturity of a 24. It's just, I don't know, it's commanding. It's got a lovely big tone to it. I love it. But I have a kit. The kit here I use here actually it has 22s. It's
Okay.
a walnut star kit, and you know they both do things well. They both do things not so well. That's the thing with any instrument, really, and that's why
Yeah.
you have a few snare drums, because one snare drum might suit one song, but it might
Exactly.
not suit another. You know,
Totally.
it's just the way it is. But I think I feel more comfortable with 24s.
Yeah, well, I can understand because, for example, on my side, I if I do a normal contract for a reason why if I do drum clinics or I have to travel, 22 is easier to get on
Yeah,
backline.
yeah,
Um, but I prefer a single bass drum. I prefer the 24. But if I
yeah,
go with a double bass drum pedal, I would prefer like a 22,
yeah.
just for the feel of the two beaters hitting the head.
Sure. Yeah,
Uh, Sometimes sounds weird, but transportation, even I need to go 20. Some companies have less space, and I didn't do a lot of moving. I'm saying that, but it's not true. For 18 years, I have a technician and people taking care of my kit too. But I mean, but when I do sometime gigs, I need to bring my kit. I'm
yeah,
gonna go 20 inches or
yeah,
tom or floor. and
yeah.
um and are you the kind of person, are you picky when you choose like your stock? Like, I mean, your drum, of course they're gonna ship you, but for example, a cymbal, if you are you like the kind of person really you can hear 25 cymbals to get the right for you, or you're like, okay, this is gonna be the, it's okay and I'm playing with it? Like, how are you in that kind of?
No, I'm pretty fussy, but here's the problem. When you select cymbals, of course, you can't tune them, you can't change them. So you're
Yeah.
pretty much stuck with what you choose. The problem is it's one thing hearing them on their own. It's another thing hearing them with your kit, and
Oh
then
yeah,
it's yet another thing playing music.
big,
And
yeah,
it's
totally.
playing the music that makes the big difference. But I know what cymbals should do. I know what I want to hear from them. But frankly, if I have to pick a new set of cymbals, I might get it close. But until I
Mhm.
start playing music, I won't really know. Now, it's very interesting. I remember, okay, all over the world, there's people making snare drums.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
all these boutique companies. And
right now, yes.
somehow they find their way into a sound check, and they're standing on the side of the stage waiting for you to arrive. And then they step forward with this case, and introduce themselves. I go, "Hello." Said, "I've got a snare drum here. I'd really like you to try." I went, "Okay. Well, we've got to do a sound check. Let me do the sound check, and if there's time, I'll." So we get there, Hiromi, Anthony, and I, and we do run a few songs, and then I say, "Okay, let me have a look at the snare drum," because I want to make sure that I actually play a tune with it. And
Mm.
he pulls it out of the case, and it's the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen. It's a beautiful wood, and wow, this is amazing. Ooh, heavy, isn't it? I said, well, let me give it. So I put it on the snare drum stand, and I play and maybe a little bit of tune. I go, wow, this is nice, great, wow. Let me play a song with it. And then whoever would say, what do you want to do? And I said, let's do so and so. Great. So we start that, and I start playing. And as soon as we start playing the music, I go, oh no, this snare drum is not going to do. Isn't
I
that
know
funny?
it wasn't
It's
passing the test.
it just wasn't musical enough.
Yeah, yeah,
On
yeah,
its
yeah.
own, it sounded better than my snare drum. I have to be frank. There's this one
Okay.
particular case, but in music, no, it didn't. Mine sounded better. Isn't that weird? So
Yeah.
it's very much the thing with cymbals. The cymbals really have to be right for music. And let's say I am picking a set of cymbals. I might, let's say I might pick a couple of rides. One
Mhm.
that I think might work, and another one that I think might be better if this one doesn't work. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Makes
yeah, it's
sense.
all until you play the music though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes sense.
Don't know.
Like actually, the time fly. I don't want to take you much more time, but I have one more question. Like, I have a
Okay.
few questions, but one I wanted to look at it is about like you play with a lot of good musician, good project, and I know you always like to dig into it. For example, like Toto, you've been for many years from 1994 until 2006. I don't remember how long you been with
Toto?
Toto. Toto,
No,
Toto
I
no,
joined the band in 1993 and I
93.
left in 2013, so 21 years.
Oh, so 20 it's a good stretch. It's a long stretch. So
Yeah.
you play with them. You play with a lot of project in your like couple of three good memories. You have like one of the project you work with. You can say that was can be whatever project you play with. You have like a memory. You said this was a good experience. I really enjoyed that moment, and I would like to do it. Or I won't do it again, but it was one of my top five or top three memorable moment in my life as a musician. You have like some kind of those in your coming pop up in your head right now?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the my time with Toto, of course, spanned a long time. And within that was some wonderful times, absolutely wonderful times. And we played some, wonderful music. Um, but I would say, well, the Hiromi project was really special, very, very different.
Okay.
Um, I did a project with Trilok Gertu and
Oh
the
yeah,
NDR band, and that was wonderful, really wonderful.
for sure.
Now, a lot of my favorite times are when it's really challenging and really difficult. Uh,
Hmm.
Playing some of Trilok's music was really difficult.
For
Some of
sure.
Hiromi's music was really
Yeah.
difficult, but I would never say anything is simple.
Hmm.
Because even when you're playing simple music, it's difficult to play it well.
Hmm.
It
Oh yeah.
relies on a different part of your experience and the way you play it. So I never like to say, when people say, "Oh, this tune's really easy," and I gotta go, "No tune is easy, not to do it
Hmm.
well," you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's different levels. There's music that's technically difficult, like a lot of Hiromi's stuff and Treelock and some other stuff that I've done. Um, and yet there's other music which doesn't require a lot of technical usage, let's say, but
Yeah.
it's difficult in a different way. When you're playing a
Yeah.
straight rock and roll tune, then what is difficult about that? I'll tell you what's difficult about that. Consistency through from the beginning to end. Obviously, timekeeping. That's number one in any kind of music, but
Hmm.
also consistency. All those backbeats, they need to be
Oh yeah.
exactly the same.
Oh yeah. This
You
is
know,
important. Yeah. Oh, oh yeah. Yeah.
um, so I think that's and leaving space as well, enough space for things to be heard. That's the other
Mhm.
thing, especially in the recording studio.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I like to say that no music is easy to play well, frankly.
Mhm.
Um, it's just some music sounds easy and some music sounds difficult. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, totally. With Toto, do you have a lot of freedom? Are you when you were playing, like they were giving you like like all doors open, or like you were like you have a lot of guidelines?
With who?
With Toto, like when you
With
were
who?
playing with Toto, yeah.
Um, well, again, it's just musical sensibility. You hear the song and you go, "Well, I know what that song needs." You know, it
Okay.
doesn't need a whole load of stuff. It needs what that song needs. That's basic common sense, musical sensibility. That's really what it is. Um, no, I mean, from what I remember, when we started rehearsing, it was like, they were, all the guys were really happy to hear different things. They didn't want somebody to come in and try to copy Jeff.
Oh, you
That's
don't.
what they didn't want. They wanted to have somebody to come in and take it somewhere else because that time is done
Yeah,
and you can never
that's
get it back. And it's fantastic, for the time it had. Now we're in a new chapter, a new drummer, and he plays differently. I'm really bad. I can't copy people. I'm just really bad at it. So, but there might have been a couple of things like I was listening to the record and I played it a certain way, and then Dave or Luke might say, "Oh, you know what? We changed that years ago. Now we play it like this." I went, "Oh, okay, great." So those little guide tracks, I think, guiding me
yeah.
to the way to play it is the way. But no, I mean, it's all about sensibility of music,
Well, great. You did great album with them. It's I'm sure you influenced a lot of people anyway with all your playing. Like you said, I think the people passing from Jeff to you didn't compare. Like they were like, okay, this is where they are right now, and let's move over. Like look the Foo Fighters
Yeah,
now with their new drummer.
yeah,
You can always thinking about the other guy, but the time just moved, and it's normal.
yeah.
Well, time is flying. Time is done. Thank you so much to be with us, Simon. It was a great pleasure to chat with you.
Pleasure, pleasure.
Uh, and you have something you would like to promote where you're going to be in the next month in 2024, like shows or something before we go?
Actually, well, there's a few things happening. We're doing a few US dates now. We've got after the NAMM show, we play 2 nights at Catalina's in Los Angeles. Then we go up to Oakland to play Yoshi's, 2 nights there. We'll be coming to Japan in April and going to Europe in May. But I think the main thing is I've just produced a vinyl version of Protocol 5.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a
Vinyl.
double album, gatefold, 180 gram, and I had it remastered specially for vinyl.
Okay.
It sounds amazing. I just got my copies the other day, and it sounds, it's vinyl, so it has a different feeling to it. But it also has, I recorded the music at 96 kilohertz, so
Okay.
there's a much more kind of analog sound to it. It's really lovely.
Oh,
So
that's
very excited about that, and that will be on sale. Actually, it gets released February the 9th.
and where they can get it? People can get that? Where
Oh,
they like
Amazon, also,
Amazon?
it's all through my distributor. They distribute all around the world.
All around.
I
Okay.
think Amazon's one of the main places. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, I wish you good luck with that. Thank you for being with us, and let's try to catch up, like in real, not online,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the next year. So I wish you all the best for the next projects you're gonna work on.
Thank you, Eric. Lovely. And enjoy Guam. I don't think I have any plans to go there just yet, but one day would love to go.
One day, it's cute. Well, it's a great play. But thank you so much. I wish you a good day, and let's keep in touch.
All right. Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye. Thanks for Simon to be with us. Keep with us. Next week we have other artists. If you didn't know, we have a website www.drumfillscafe.com. All is there. And thank you for being with us tonight. And see you soon.